Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order. The regular meeting of the Joint Land Use Board for Thursday, March 24th, 2022 is called to order. I wish to announce that the open public meeting law, known as the Sunshine Law of 1975, has been complied with. The notice of meeting was advertised at our reorganization meeting, at which time our official newspapers were notified. Copies are placed on the bulletin board. And would you please stand for the pledge, salute? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mayor Roach.
Here.
Councilwoman Hess.
Here.
Mr. Wells.
Here.
Ms. Joy Jackson.
Here.
Ms. Misholi.
Here.
Mr. Dawson.
Here.
Mr. Foley. Mr. Jermaine Jackson.
Here.
Ms. DiDomenico here. Ms. Prodish. Here. Mr. Vandergrift.
Here. Okay. First, we have Resolution JLUB-21-3 revised.
Just typos, yeah.
We have a roll call? What do we motion? So have a motion? So moved. Second? Roll
Mayor
call.
Roach.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hess.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
I have to abstain.
Okay. Ms. Joy Jackson.
Yes.
Ms. Misholi.
Yes.
Mr. Dawson.
Abstain.
Mr. Jermaine Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Vandergrift.
Yes. Okay. New business, application JLUB 22-1, extra space storage, 1322 Laurel Road, block 238, lots 1 and 1.08, amending use variance.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman. Jeffrey Barron, I'm the attorney of law admitted practice in the state of New Jersey, and representing MHC 83, HW Portfolio LLC. This is a property on, this is a use on block 236, lot 1 and 1.08. It's in the OP-1 zone and the R zone. I have with me this evening Norm Kotot.
Can you bring the microphone closer to you?
Yes, sure. And if the solicitor would be kind enough to swear, we'll go right into that.
Okay. Yes, sir. Could you state your name and your address for the record? You can use your business address.
Norman Kotot, 7607 Ellington Place, Ohio.
Do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give this evening will be the whole truth? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Kotot, what is your connection with MHC 83, the applicant here tonight?
Could I interrupt you just for a second? We did do the notice, is that correct?
Yes.
Yes, okay. That's been done. Now, there is an issue with respect to, is it outstanding taxes and sewer? Just sewer. Okay, so the board, what you can do, hear the application and make that a condition of approval if the board so approves. It's not a significant sum, so I guess we could have a motion from the board to proceed and make the payment of the outstanding assessments a condition of approval.
We didn't get notice of that. I didn't make notice of that. We were taking it.
Okay, yeah.
For her. Can I have the motion?
Make said motion.
Second? Second. Who seconded? Rich. I second. Great.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hess? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Ms. Joy Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Masholi? Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Mr. Jermaine Jackson? Mr. Vandergrift?
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you.
You can proceed now.
You can have the secretary give us a copy of that. Thank you. If whoever is still here, I just, hey, I can actually do that. Well, we can't give it to them because do you have checks? Yeah, I don't have a check, just, that's under. Thank you for.
I don't know if she'll take payment. I saw her come in.
Did you credit card?
You don't do credit card. You can do credit card online, but you can't do it.
We don't let any grass grow under us.
It's not,
It's $139.
yes.
Well, we'll see how we're gonna do it. Well, we can't send it to the.
Would you like to proceed, sir?
Well, the secretary on the paper is the take one.
automatic.
Okay, so then we will. So we'll go back to where I started, before I found out that we were delinquent. Thank you. Coach Hodge, would you tell us, you did tell us your relationship with the applicant. Are you authorized to represent the applicant this evening in terms of facts and information in regard to the application?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Chairman and members of the board, this is maybe the simplest application we'll ever do. It'll definitely be the simplest one tonight. In the original approval, this is a pre-existing storage facility. It's located on the lot and block that I mentioned to you. When the approval was given by the board in 2005, December 22nd, 2005. There was a condition of approval on page 5, it's number H, small h, and it says there will be at least one employee on site at all times to provide security. So that's nearly 20 years ago. And at that time, it made all the sense in the world to have somebody there full-time to watch over it. But what's changed since then to today, Mr. Kotak?
Well, in all honesty, we just purchased the property in August of 20. The previous owner, the other had a security guard there. I'm not sure if they were expecting a security guard, but someone there living there 24 hours a day. So when we purchased this in August of 20, we knew that was a problem because it was never provided. We didn't want to continue on the radar, and it's important that we might as well present this to the city and say, let's get that condition eliminated because no one has security guards on site 24 hours a day. We just want to do it. We're not going to do it, but we want to be honest about it and bring it forward and have it eliminated. So since then, we've had DVR reporting what's going on in the property 24 hours a day. There are 32 cameras on site. There are 5 in the office and 27 on the property. The fenced in, locked down 24 hours a day. Access to a keypad and electric control gate. In addition, the police department has the passcode to the gate so they can access it, and I understand if they want to patrol at night, they can do so. And there's a lock box on the porch there with master keys in it. Emergency team will come up and get access to property through that as well. So there really isn't a need for it, and I've been doing this for 26 years, and literally seen thousands of facilities from the west coast to the east coast, and nobody has a security guard unless there's a storm or a hurricane that knocks the fence down, and they want to have someone on site to make sure they're moving or something like that. We're about as secure as we can be. I understand that there's never a break-in or complaint from anybody. The police department doesn't find this as a problem. So we just want to get that technically compliant and reduce that condition.
He's the best kind of witness you can have. He just lied about it. He tells the court everything I asked him to talk about yesterday. So I think it was very informative. One other thing that you shared with me, there actually is a lockdown time when the business hours are over, when no one can enter, is that correct?
Well, you still have to have a pass code even during the business hours.
Right.
Even the property. So the gate is still closed, until people have a pass code with the enter to get in. And it automatically will not give you access past 10 p.m. Even people who have units on site are not permitted on site after 10 p.m. to the two-factor. The pass code will not be.
So we're not asking to change anything. As you all know, it's already built. It's been there for years. We've had no break-ins, as Lynn said. We've had no problems with police calls or anything of that nature. It's been well maintained from the appearance of it, made. All we want to do is to amend that condition of approval to provide the security facilities that we talked about, the number of cameras, and the on-site screens that are there to observe in lieu of having an actual live guard or something.
The number of cameras, that was, did you say 27?
32.
32.
27 on the property and 5 on the car. Well, not in the office. The taxi office, looking at the gate and the outside front door.
Okay. And have you coordinated the cameras with the Lindenwold Police Department at all?
Coordinated, not the there.
Okay, because we typically do make that a condition of any
We'll
approval.
consult with them, and if they want access to it, there's no problem.
Yeah.
And the DVR, by the way, will report at least a month's worth of code comments. So that's
And that's it. We're just asking for that one condition to be excised and modification and your solicitor will put the number of cameras so that we maintain bring them to the site. If you have any questions, I'd like to be happy to answer.
Does anybody on the board have questions? Does anybody in the public have any questions? Okay, we'll close public questions.
Okay, this is an application simply to modify a pre-existing, a prior approval by the board, which the board does have authority to do that. The applicant did give public notice that he is seeking a modification of that prior approval. And so the board has to consider why this, 24/7 condition was imposed, and if the alternative things that the applicant has done with respect to the security that they have provided to the site really addresses what the board thought back in 2008 or 2005, why they opposed that. So we do have the testimony. They've never had any break-ins. They do have more security there, the lock-ins, the lockbox, the case, the gate, the passbook, the hours of operation. And so if the board was to approve the application, we would simply just have the applicant submit, or at least have the police department take a look at the security measures, so we know that that's a typical condition and they're happy with the placement and the operation of the security measures.
With those conditions, does anybody on the board want to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call?
Mayor Roach?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hess? Yes. Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Ms. Joy Jackson? Yes. Ms. Misholi? Yes. Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Mr. Jermaine Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Vandergrift?
Yes.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
By the way, your staff here is fantastic. I think Nancy and Jeff and the mayor, you do it wonderful people. Thank you very much. I'm saying that after.
I was going to say,
approval, not before.
I do want to say that. And see how things go. Have a safe
Thank you.
I think the tax authority is going to work down.
Okay. Okay, next application, JLUB 22-2, Real Cordo LLC, La Esperanza, 40 East Gisborough Road, Block 155, Lots 4, 6, 6.01, 7.01, and 8. Major site plan, preliminary and final. Additional parking area, relocated trash enclosure, solar canopy, and variances.
Mr. Chairman, Jeffrey Barron, representing the applicant, Real Cordova. Real Cordova is the owner of the property. The La Esperanza restaurant is on the property that is leased from Real Cordova. And I have with me tonight 3 different witnesses. I think probably Alejandro Cordova is behind me. Alejandro, if you would come up and the seat, and also Joseph Mancini, who is our engineer, and Kevin Ham, who is our technical consultant. He will explain to you and go over with you some renderings of the solar panels that are proposed to be constructed at this site. And as you said, Mr. Chairman, this is relatively straightforward too. I'm sure you all know that the restaurant has been there for some time. It's successful. It's probably the best Mexican restaurant in South Jersey. I'm saying that before the vote this time. That's how confident I am in that statement. The chairman correctly read the application. The proposal is to take a stone parking lot in the rear and pave the blacktop out for pavement parking. It's also to put a solar array above the area in the rear. Your ordinance, and we'll talk about this, your ordinance seems to mostly be directed to ground-mounted solar. This is not ground-mounted solar. This is solar in the air, and you will see. So some of the provisions probably don't apply and couldn't apply in the region strictly. But we'll get into that, and I'm sure we can accommodate any concerns that the staff may have. And there's also a relocation of the dumpster, and there's a further relocation from what we requested. Your engineer suggested that the place that we had chosen to put the dumpster might not be as accessible as he would like to see when the trash truck comes. And so our engineer will discuss a relocation of that I think vastly improves that condition. There's also a variance that was called out in the report. It is, I guess, technically a variance. It's a pre-existing non-conforming use. The building is built 14 feet over Gisborough Road. And so under the hardship criteria of New Jersey statute annotated 40.55D, 70A, because it's there, and the only way we can cure that is to tear the whole building down and replace it, build another building at a 30-foot setback. We're asking for a variance from that condition. It'll be the same existing setback as it is now, no change, but it is a condition that's not technically conforming to the ordinance in the Senate. It's in the B1 zone, permitted use. And with that, I'm sorry, it's at 40 East Gisborough Road. It's lots 4, 6, 601, 701, and 8 in block 155. So I think it's probably easiest if we have all of our witnesses sworn now and then we'll just go straight.
Yes, I think I did note that front yard setback was existing.
You did. You did. No, it's absolutely in there. It's just that I just want to be clear that there's not a lot of proofs that we're going to put on because it is a hardship condition. It's not that flexible C use that you probably hear a lot of times when you have to prove one of the purposes of zoning and delaying as to see if the benefits are protection. In this case, it would be a hardship to somehow meet that setback. So, if I could have our witnesses.
So, Mr. Cordova, could you give your name for the record and your address?
Alejandro Cordova, 40 East Gisborough Road.
And you, sir?
Joseph Mancini with Tri-State. This address is 900 68 Blackwood.
And you, sir?
Kevin Ham, Geoscape Solar. Business address is 520 Fellowship Road, not all.
And that's Ham?
H-A-M-S.
Okay, thank you. The board engineer?
It's been a permanent environmental evaluation of the board.
I could have told this.
It took me a while. It's been a long week.
Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give this evening will be the whole truth? Thank you.
Sorry, you're
Alejandro, if you would be kind enough, can you explain what I've already told the board, what you're proposing to do, and what the purpose of it is in the operation of the restaurant?
Yes, and because it's 3 meters high, we want to do something positive for the environment. We're going to have solar panels, renewable energy, probably people access all electric vehicles. Then we will have 2 electric car chargers to our property.
Oh, you're going to provide that?
Yes.
Very good. The paid parking lot, is that for customer parking?
Yes, it is.
And it will be all paid?
Yes,
The solar panel array that's in the air, is that correct?
that is correct.
Above the parking areas. And the dumpster location will have Mr. Mancini testify to, but if I understand the emails I saw today, you actually determined where the dumpster should be located, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. So we'll do some testimony about that.
Mr. Mancini did reach out to me to show me the location. I don't know if it's acceptable.
Well, the red arrow was, I found that while we were here, that was from Alejandro. This approval, this application is subject to the result of a preliminary final approval by the board. So the location of the restaurant and the improvements have been made, they were all approved, the Lindenwold years ago. This is an attempt, as you just heard, to try to improve the condition and to reduce the utility charges. So I don't have anything else on Alejandro. If you want to ask questions of the judge, that's fine. If you want to wait till the end to ask questions, that's equally fine, whatever your preference.
Does anybody have any questions for him on the board? I guess you can proceed.
Thank you. You can go back to your seat. Mr. Mancini, would you join me, please? You said it, but by whom are you employed?
Trustee in Engineering and Survey.
And what is your capacity to charge for?
I am president of the firm. I'm also a licensed professional engineer and professional planner.
How long have you held your licenses in the state of New Jersey?
I've been a licensed professional planner since 2008 and professional engineer since 2007.
Are your licenses in effect, in good standing in effect at the present time?
Absolutely.
And have you testified before planning and zoning boards in the state of New Jersey and been accepted as an expert in both engineering and planning?
Many times including this.
Okay. Mr. Chairman, we present Mr. Mancini as an expert in planning and engineering.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joe, can you describe for the board what exactly is being done with this application?
Sure. So, just referencing the overall site plan, sheet 2 of 6 from the plans that we submitted here. You can see the existing restaurant at the front, this road to the bottom of the page. Cooper Street, north side of the property to the right, Holly Street to the rear. As Jeff mentioned, we're proposing to clean up the existing pavement. Part of that rear parking area is access from Holly Street paved, part of it's compacted stone, so we're going to clean that up. Formal striping. We're looking to obviously build this solar canopy here, just sort of outline the black to give you an idea where it is. And Kevin will present some much prettier pictures than what I have here to give you an idea what that looks like. There's no change to the parking, just formalizing that with resurfacing. The trash enclosure is under where the canopy is going to go, so we're looking to relocate that. Based on some of the comments from Jeff and from the fire marshal, we reevaluated this as a possible location when we look to move it back to the parking area where it's more easily accessible for trash trucks and also provides the required separation from the building. So we think that's all around a better location. provide that on the front of the additional approval. Essentially, that's the application that's proposed here. We do need some relief associated with the solar canopy. That we anything else on the plan that we have?
No, there's no change to the location of the building or any other improvements on the site.
That's correct. So the engineer's letter notes that the solar is permitted everywhere in Lindenwold. If it's located in the rear yard or side yard, and we agree with this interpretation that based on the orientation of the building, basically thoroughly taking the main thoroughfare, this would be considered rear yard, so that would apply. There is some non-conformities created by the fact that we have several lots here that are owned by the applicant. Technically, the restaurant, all the improvements are on lot 1701, which is sort of the middle area here. To the south is lot 4, 501, 601. To the north, again, 245. So the setback variances that would be required really essentially to the internal lot line. So we don't necessarily honor the setbacks to internal lot lines for 1701. And those potentially could be eliminated based on consolidation lots. The only variance that would remain is for the height of the solar canopy, which is 23 feet at maximum, 14 feet at the minimum, for the limits height to 12 feet. And as Jeff mentioned, I think that primarily contemplates ground mounted solar at the time we receive a solar farm. And this is a different type of use of the solar canopy. By design, it's higher so the vehicles can go into the vehicle. And we think it also has some added benefit of directing the view of the panels up higher, and they're pointing inwards, as you'll see from Kevin's rendering. So this middle line here, the panels are sort of pointed inwards, so they're pointing up to the sky, and sort of pointing towards the and that would, I believe, fall under the C2 criteria where the benefit of vegetation would outweigh the detriment. This land use law was amended to 2000 to specifically identify solar and photovoltaic facilities as inherently beneficial use. Additionally, purpose and of the statute for those renewable energy sources that identifies that as one of the purposes of the zone.
So let's just turn around a lot of letters, but just do a little more. So you're referencing, when you're now satisfying the positive criteria for the 55 feet, that's 70 feet. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And when you said section N, I think you're talking about the purposes of zoning that are contained in the same statute, 55 feet, capital N, is that correct?
That's what it is.
Just for the record. Well, I appreciate that. There was a question.
We're focusing on the negative criteria, because we have no substantial detriment to public good, nor substantial impairment of the intended purposes of the zoning plan and zoning ordinance. As I mentioned, the location of the solar facility is substantially removed from any of our neighbors. The canopy is consistent with other types of solar canopy structures that are in Lindenwold right now. And we comply with the aesthetic and safety considerations that are in the ordinance for solar facilities. So with that in mind, we really satisfy the operating criteria related to the C2 zones. And it would be appropriate for that variance for the site.
In terms of the no substantial detriment to the intended purposes of zoning ordinance as to the zoning, this is a permitted use, correct?
Absolutely.
So the ordinance clearly envisions it and has some standards in regard to it, so there can't be any question that it would be contrary to zoning, correct?
That's absolutely right.
Joe, I proffered to the board that there is a pre-existing setback. Can you just describe what that is, show them where it is, so that we can listen to the testimony?
Yeah, certainly. So the existing setback in front of the restaurant to Griswold Road is approximately 14 feet, where the limit requires 30 feet. And this is not one condition within that way. The home building is
Okay. Don't go too far, because when we read this letter, I'm going to ask you to come up so we can comment on anything rather than take the board's time now and go through item by item. Let's let their profession decide how he wants to have it done. But I don't have anything further to tell at this time if any board members would be happy with that.
You did mention that you're consolidating the lots.
We can consolidate the lots.
That's what I wanted to do, we had discussed.
Yeah, let me explain that, because there is a basis for it. As Mr. Cordova purchased the properties around it, he never sought to consolidate because the tax assessor indicated that that would be the tax assessor. He would be changing lots that would otherwise be residential in character, undeveloped. There's none of them developed. There's nothing in the commercial, and that would raise the tax assessment. So he was reluctant, I think understandably so, to consolidate all the lots for that reason, because it was just up to his tax structure. He's not proposing any construction in those lots. I would offer to the board that if he ever does come in for construction on those lots, that he would agree to consolidate the lots. It would make sense, because the commercial operation would expand, and so the tax obligation would expand. But so long as he doesn't consolidate the lots, and it stays the same, he would really prefer to do it. Now, Joe told you that, he cut credit from his letter, that if he consolidated the lots, all those variances should go away. They're all setbacks, they're from lot line. So if you combine them, lot lines go away, and the variances go away. But there's no real, I mean, I don't see, maybe he has a different opinion, I don't see any negative impact that would occur from leaving them as they are. And that's why I'm making this offer that if he ever decides to develop those lots commercially, then he would consolidate them all.
I don't have any objections on consolidating, because in practicality, you need the setback requirements. You know, those grounds is not developing them. It's just a recommendation that I make, pretty consistently about an application, so you can have some areas where we try consolidating lots. If it's his preference to not consolidate the lots, I really don't have no objection to that.
Melanie has no use for it. I mean, that's what I'm trying to say. When you use one, it's different. He doesn't.
And practically, it's not going to change. Like you said,
No.
the lines drawn on a piece of paper, they're not affecting anything.
Okay.
We don't really consolidate the lots. It's just a recommendation that I make to the facility to see if there's any variances. That's up to your...
So without the consolidation, we do have then all those additional variances that Mr. Hanson has addressed in his letter.
Correct.
Okay.
They do. So it's not, I'll have Mr. Nancy give a little testimony council, so that, I can put what we do. Joe, are they de minimis variances? One is 1 foot, isn't it?
Well, the other way around, so to speak. So one of them provides a setback of 1 foot to the property line and 10 feet required. I believe that's on the left side, the south side of the canopy. In one instance, the canopy actually encroaches into lot 8, so to speak. So essentially that's a zero setback of encroachment. And then there's sorry, just looking at that. The outside side yard is 20 feet, and again, essentially we have 0 on one side and 1 on the other, essentially the same variance, so we have an aggregate of 1 foot there, so 20 feet required for the
It's the opposite of de minimis, my mistake.
de minimis in character.
They're relatively large, but they're relatively large, as your professional has indicated, from lot to lot that he owns. It's his own property that is non-conforming, because normally what you would see is someone else owns that land, and to protect their interests, you would want to limit the variances. In this case, there isn't anybody else that owns any of the land on the outside, if you will, outside of the lot.
And just to clarify for the record, potentially there would also be a lot coverage variance against the continuation of all the improvements of the side of the one that taken as a whole as well as the rest of the you can only have 20% of your lot covered by solar panels, I believe, whereas the 20%
Yeah, you're
It's
right.
up to your overall size of the property as well, whether that obviously
Right.
is probably, looking at it, 10% of the left side of the best too. Right. So I would submit that the proofs that we offered for the height variance would stand for the potential variances as well.
Okay.
Once the grant those offerings.
For the benefits, under land use under section 2, as you've already told us, is that both in the definition of, that encompasses solar and in section N, which we talked about in part 2, subsection part 2, the land use law recognizes this as an inherently beneficial use. So that satisfies the positive criteria.
It does.
And as to the negative, once again, same things we talked about on the last part, solar is permitted in this zone, so obviously the zoning ordinance is compliant with the zoning ordinance, right?
Absolutely. So the only test then would be really whether or not the execution of our solar is created in a public estimate and how we execute it and how it's supposed to be.
Right, we're gonna give you some testimony in a minute from Mr. Hamm about that, because I'm sure that you have some interest as to what this is gonna look like when it's gonna happen. So you believe we satisfy positive or negative criteria for all those things?
I do.
Now you can move on.
Very good.
And I'll call you back when we're gonna review. that.
Yeah, can I make a note about why I reviewed it under the ground mounted?
Yeah, sure.
That's the definition that it most clearly fit. There's nothing really about solar arrays or canopies in there.
We don't.
So, okay.
We don't. You didn't have any choice. We recognize that.
I mean, I looked at the ground, so
Right.
that's what I went with. It had something like an array. When I think of ground mounted, I think of the panels that are just out in the field somewhere.
I've done a lot of work both pro and con on solar, and these elevated arrays, they're up in the air. They're really usually done on very large applications, where you have acres and acres and acres to be absorbed by solar. You don't really see, because things can go in. You could pass under them too. A lot of them are on farms, and farmers indicate they're going to continue to farm, believe it or not, under the solar array. So I agree with that. You couldn't have done it any other way, but, and we're not saying we shouldn't have, give you the proof, we're just saying we don't think that's what we intended to do. Anyway, if you'll let me, I'll call Kevin Hamm up and we'll learn a little bit about solar arrays. Kevin, by whom are you employed?
Good evening, I'm employed by JLUB Solar, Southern Office in Florida.
Now, this rendering you're showing us was not submitted as part of the plan, correct?
No.
So do me a favor, do you have a pen with you? Would you write, maybe in the right or left corner, Exhibit A-1 with today's date on it, so that both council and the board secretary have a record of what this exhibit was? And if you keep the pen, we're going to do this right away. Kevin, tell us what your company does and what you specifically did in regard to the solar on this site.
Sure. My name is Kevin Hamm from JLUB Solar. We're a local New Jersey solar contractor. I've been 13 years. First, I've been with the company 9 years. So, we design and install solar systems, rooftop, ground mount, and also carports. And carports are becoming a more affordable and prevalent option for business owners primarily.
And these, what we refer to as a carport, they sort of serve dual purposes, do they not? They not only provide solar, but they also provide shelter from the elements for cars that are parked over here, correct?
Yes, and also we have one of the ones that will provide, outdoor dining and, protection from the sun for guests at the restaurant. So it will provide kind of a dual use in addition to that. But yes, that is the purpose is to use existing spaces, parking lots primarily, to produce energy. And that's one of the benefits of the customer.
And as I drove over here today from my office, I noticed, well, I knew it, but I was looking at it specifically. Over in the Lindenwold high-speed line parking lot, you have the solar arrays in your elevator and the cars parked underneath. So you're very familiar with Lindenwold, with what it is, as it's here in Lindenwold.
The high school for years.
Yeah, there's more than one application. I recognize that for sure. So Kevin, tell us about what is the height of it, tell us what the materials are that are used, and then tell us what almost every application of these types draw out testimony on. What is the glare, if any, that occurs from the panels?
So this application is intended to be a mid-tide solar array for the primary use of the restaurant. I think the pavilion mentioned that. Energy costs are high, even more so over the past couple of months because of the overhead. So energy independence and the ability for a business owner to reduce those operating costs and also at the same time make environmental benefits. So it is a grid-tied, self-use application already approved by the New Jersey Clean Energy Program to qualify for the energy incentives, and also the utility company, Lindenwold Electric, has approved this with minimal upgrades, no big deal at all. So transformers that will be included. So we do have state and utility approval for this. Our next step. So the material is a galvanized steel. We'll do color as is here, and the gray. We'll keep it 25 years to we can. Solar panels on top, obviously absorb the sun, convert it into energy, so there is no glare. Solar panels by design are meant to absorb light, not reflect it. We have a actually down near the Atlantic City Airport, which obviously was a major concern, and we try to get some more the details of that. It's an issue from a reflective standpoint at all. We will manage the water, to disperse softeners, so that it provides shelter for the cars and guests of the restaurant.
What is the height of it? I know it's a graduate.
It's 14 feet to meet minimal commercial vehicle traffic, although that's not close here, so high end is 20 feet.
And there will be charging stations
Yes.
also as part of it?
Yes, and that has been another benefit of renewable energy. It's electric vehicles, so we will provide, I'm not sure where they're going to be located, they may be under the array, but we will provide two publicly accessible electric vehicle chargers for guests in the restaurant, and also for anybody who's passing through it.
I don't think I have any of, I do have one. Tell us who prepared the specific statement.
Are we prepared?
No, who prepared it?
So we're obviously the designer and installer of record, but we use a company called Solar Mounts that does all our structures, and they took a rendering, the size and to scale of the actual array on the actual property.
That's what I was going to ask you. So it's like a photograph. It's a true and actual depiction of what it will look like as opposed to a photograph, which is a true and actual depiction of what something looks like.
And from an aesthetic standpoint, these structures have really grown. I've seen the high school, I've seen the high speed line, more of a truss structure as opposed to industrial look, which I viewed as the whole of the aesthetics actually improved over the past few years.
Was A2, which is the exhibit you got up there now, was that prepared by the same company for you? And again, true and accurate as to what the rendering would look like? Where is that? Can you orient us? Where are we looking at there compared with A1?
Yeah, so this is the back of the existing parking lot. Looking to the rear, to the main entrance of the facility. And this other view is on the opposite side of the picnic benches. Looking down, it's northward, if you will, on the side lot. The main road is this side.
Right. The intent was to show the board from two different location, what it would look like. So people can see it, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I don't have anything further for Kevin. I don't know if anything.
Did we just mark that?
We did.
We did A2? Okay.
A1 and A2 were marked as good as
I have a question. Oh, go ahead, you go first.
I have a question about A1. Unlike in high school and the capital parking lot, where the jumping off of the beach into the grass and ruining all of that?
If we can go to the either side, I think we can orient that to both sides.
Yeah, from what we've discussed is that we could collect it and just start to move away. On either side, we have grass areas that are substantially removed from the property line, so we can deal with it directly into the grass area, as opposed to just dumping it right back into the parking lot.
Do you feel like in a heavy storm there, that would be a lot of water coming off that edge, digging out in the grass area?
No more than any other down south or
So we'll have it on the top one? And then I have one other question with it looks like outdoor dining, what is going to stop the traffic from being able to drive into that?
We can put bollards up or some other type of barrier to have the parking blocks. Right now we have at least 60 by 60 posts, so that's the way it's. Yeah. So this is more of an application of a shelter for guests as opposed to a food park for guests. Any other questions?
You're saying that the code is like, stop the traffic from going through? Are they sealing?
What's there now? It's, the posts, they are wood. Yeah, they are, I believe, 2 or 4 feet into the ground. They already are aligned to the building, so it's not that kind of thing.
But it painted?
They are.
Will they be higher than the fence that was shown there?
No, they are actually, right, so, the picture doesn't show it, but all the posts are here. And from here, it has more.
You can take a big picture and show it. When we gave them the rendering, we gave them what the canopy would look like. We didn't give them anything as to the existing position on the ground, except the picture building. So they didn't put the plans in place. Be happy to provide the board with a photo so you can see how we actually prevent cars from entering into that area. I think was the board member's recommendation.
So actually the posts are like, what the cement the stuff? What along this man?
We can make that a condition as part of the construction set.
And what was that condition, Sam? What was that again?
That there would be, showing a prevention of vehicle traffic into the area. It's already in existence, so we need to be.
We'll actually put those on the plan. We'll mark where the poles are, the posts are on the plan, so that with the plan that we have an approval, we'll know exactly where the posts are.
Is there any other questions from the board? Would you like to proceed or set?
We're ready to go through your professionals review letter. I guess the question is, do you want to do that before opening to the public, or do you want to open to the public before we go through the letter? Obviously, your procedure.
Craig, you want to give your letter first?
I'll go through my letter. Sure. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have a letter dated March 16th, 2022. Page 1 basically outlines the proposal and the conditions of the site. I won't, for the sake of time, I won't read through all that. Unless anybody specifically has any questions or comments about it. Section 2, or I'm sorry, page 2, talked about the completeness review. There were 5 outstanding items. Nancy had sent those 5 outstanding items along to me subsequently since the issuance of my letter. Those were all satisfied, so I didn't have any objection to the application being deemed complete at that point. We went through, Jeff and Joe went through the various variances that are required. So I think we're looking at 6 of them, if I'm not mistaken. Side yard setback on the southerly property line of 1 foot where 10 feet is required, 14-foot encumbrance on the north side setback where 10 is required, a aggregate side yard setback of 20 feet is required in B1, whereas 1 foot girdle is proposed, and then you can only have 20% of your lot covered by solar arrays, whereas the coverage is 25.9% for the activities in this application. Also,
If you just look at that one lot.
if you just look at the one lot, you're not going to we're not going to consolidate. I think that's that at this point. With the height's limited 12 feet, going on to page 3, this is going to be 23 feet high, and then okay, so we're 5, I guess. I'm sorry.
That's 5.
That's 5, and there's the pre-existing non-conforming.
That's 6.
Setback, so it would be 5, and then 5 actual variances of the existing non-conforming. There's 10, 11, and 12 talk about buffering. In the B1 zone, 365, 91, 92 require that predominantly non-residential uses whose side or rear yards back up to a residential zone have to be appropriately screened. There's a pretty good distance between the backyard lot and where the requirements start. There's not a tremendous amount of buffering there currently, and I think you're basically replacing landscaping that what's going to happen to that little island is the key main vestibule that's at the rear of the lot.
Well, the thing is not supposed to change. Do you have any?
We're just going to leave the existing landscaping. My main concern with those comments with the buffering was to make sure, I was just worried about any glare from those panels towards the apartments, but looking at this from the testimony, it looks like it's directed pretty much away from the apartments. It's not something that's going to be pointing right at them. That was really what I was worried about, somebody looking at an upper floor of those.
We think that Jeff's comments were very good and on point. So we were going to propose that Mr. Mancini or someone from his office could do an on-site inspection of Jeff, and if there's any gaps in the buffering or areas that aren't screened, we'll fill those in. Because there is existing buffering, but as you know, there's always some things that die or branches to break or whatever. So the best way I think to do that, since the maintenance period and the bond for that as long as prior is to go out, see where that needs to be supplemented, and we'll agree to do that and show them.
I can work with Joe on that. That's something I'm a little worried.
Excuse me, and that's along the rear property line?
No, the rear property line. We don't have any issues on that. I think we're have with the buffers on the side property line, and then the restaurant side, you know, the basic for a road right now. I don't even know if you can see panels from the road too much, except for, I don't believe so. It's pretty much like here in front of it. There's a requirement in the solar ordinance that requires that a structural report be provided for the solar panel for the supports and all that. I imagine that'll be submitted with the construction package.
Yeah, we've gone over that with our consultant, and that's a pretty customary thing that they do to get any construction permits.
I would imagine those construction departments are going to look for that. But vehicle turning templates, Joe. Yeah, those are the plans to provide those. I'm most concerned with just with the turn movements coming into the driveway. I imagine most patrons come up over there and into the back to where the parking area is. So we need to make sure that okay, but I want to make sure that that's clear. Obviously, it's only like 16 feet wide, I believe. So number 4 was talking about the dumpster, but that's going to be moved. I don't think that's going to be considered a concern anymore. They're going to move it further out back so that the truck will be able to access it easier. It's going to be harder for them to make those turn movements, I think, up on the concrete portion of the driveway push to the road. Number 5 on page 4 is just a clerical error on the width of the array.
Look correct.
I see their lights underneath that. There are, I can see now with the renderings, naturally, there lights are up. They'll meet the borough lighting requirements, I would imagine.
Absolutely, yeah. So it's discussed that with Kevin, and what we typically do is a night light test at the time. There is existing lighting for the parking lot.
That's not going to be affected in any way whatsoever.
So we'll identify, we certainly want to meet the ordinance requirements, but we also don't want to add excessive lighting that's a nuisance to the neighbors. So we'll identify how much lighting is necessary underneath the canopy to meet that ordinance standard that we want.
Number 7, you were going to move, Joe and I spoke this morning, the one canopy support, the first one in looks like it creates a potential vehicle conflict, and that concrete driveway is going to shift that a little bit.
This driveway coming through here, this is Gifford Road, last time we went, so this driveway coming through here, this support here, we really can't move the supports. What we talked about doing is possibly shifting the whole canopy structure to the right on the page a little bit to the south, and this will provide a better clearance there. So we would adjust that on the revised plan, adjust that back.
The stone, if you're familiar with the site, about half of the existing parking area is bituminous right now, or asphalt, and the other half is stone. They're going to resurface the stone portion of the parking lot with bituminous, which is our recommendation of evaluating the existing portion of the asphalt. And I don't think there were a whole lot of areas of disrepair, but while he's out there paving, it just happened to fix.
I was amazed by Alejandro's response to this, which is I'm so used to clients saying, oh no, it doesn't need to be resurfaced, it doesn't need to be filled in, it's fine, we've been using it this way for years. He said, yeah, it's fine, we're probably going to say that what's the right response? Right use of
The engineer's
And
then number 9 is just to note that the current trigger and the thresholds for major development under NJSA 7 which governs stormwater discharges, but you're not going to the water quality or runoff standards for major development. For the light testimony, he's going to be going to start out the grass areas, for example, areas that have water running. And then there's no impact to any of the security cameras or anything with the site. So we want to make that go back to the police. Are the police plugged in with your security system?
They
are not, but absolutely.
Okay. We try to get all our
What's
businesses
there
going.
now, Alejandro? What is your security system like?
We have about 22 cameras.
Okay.
All surrounding buildings have cameras looking towards Gibson Road and towards College Street and to the side.
So what we need to do is contact the police department and we'll tell them that we're going to approval, tell them that we would like to coordinate with them in regard to the security and see if they have any comments or anything we'd like to have addressed, make it easier for them to respond to any call. Okay.
It's something that we typically have been asking Andy.
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, and then there was the fire department's letter about keeping the fire zone clear behind the restaurant. There is no issues with that, I guess, with anything that's going on here, Joe.
No, we'll comply with the fire marshal's recommendation.
We just read that letter yesterday, I believe. With that, I think that covers everything. Do we have any questions or comments from you?
Question regarding the cameras. Do we know if this is going to block any of the camera views yet?
No. One is right here, so I can see any issue. The other one is right here, going out. The other one is right here. I don't think, because they are not above the building, so they will be under the camera.
Okay.
So it should be fine.
That was sort of the genesis of my question, just to make sure one's going to be impacted.
I didn't see the fire marshal letter. What was that? Was there a recommendation?
It was just making sure that the fire zone behind the sort of between the deck and the outdoor seating area there was going to be kept clear in case there was a fire. And that just Joe testified that they'll be able to get, with what they're doing here, they'll be able to keep it clear for the fire activity.
Anybody from the board have any other questions? Should we open up to the public? Anybody from the public have any questions? Could you step over, please? And tell us your name and your address.
Hi, my name's Pamela Cole.
Excuse me, Pamela, before we move,
Sure.
for the record, Pamela, could you spell your last name?
COLE,
Okay, and your address?
5 Glen Alpine Court.
5. What was it?
The angle of the back, why does the angle of that have to be so high? Is there a reason that's so high? And the runoff of the water and why does that go up so high? Is there a reason for that?
Maybe it's a typical design of the structure, the productivity of the array, both the mechanical and electrical. That's the standard design on the level.
Okay.
In regards to the runoff, it won't have any effect on any off-site properties. All runoff collected in the middle goes to downspout, goes down the park, so when it discharges, the array is roughly 100 feet from the main property line. So it discharges out to the side, which is much further.
I've never seen any go up that high. I've designed a couple of restaurants. That's what I do in the restaurant business, and so we're doing all of that now. I've never just seen one go up that high, so I was just wondering what the purpose of that was. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely, and so we're not changing any impervious surface underneath. It's all the same. Most of the area underneath of it is already impervious. There's really no change there. Even if there wasn't, it's just on the wall. So definitely no issues there for that fact.
Kevin, I assume, I'm not the designer of the race, but I assume that you want to keep a pitch that is adequate to make sure that the water does go down to the point of discharge and that it doesn't stay on the roof and create any problems that way, correct?
Just like any design, there's optimization that's done, so sun angle for production and water runoff, wind load, stresses on the structure itself.
Like a reverse roof. I mean, on your house, you want a pitch on the roof for the water all the way down, and on this one, you want a pitch to bring it down to the center.
Yeah, for this application, there are other structures out there that are, a rectangular surface on a pitch that optimizes the production relative to the sun. For this application, because of protecting and having water come through, most of those, school, and at the train station, there's actually a gap between the solar panel and the water coming through, whereas this will not have it, so that, yes,
And I think you said the minimum height, excuse me, was 14 feet?
Yeah, I mean, there's no commercial boundary through here, but that's just the design.
Well, there are some deliveries that take place to the restaurant.
There won't be any deliveries in the center here at the moment.
No, but that was my point, that you want to make sure that if somebody went a little too far, there's enough of a height to accommodate.
Or there going to be signs on it saying the height in case there is a tractor trailer that comes pulls in there?
We can put a sign on there that indicates the height in that location. You're right, good point, Mr. Chairman.
The ordinance requires that the electrical control equipment shall be labeled and secured around access to that.
I think that's a standard electric code policy that will be, in fact, if you go over the permit set and it has all the appropriate labels up including the interconnection to the main distribution, disconnect switch, all standard.
Okay. That's what I
I missed what you said. Was there a question with the fire department and how to shut it off? There has to be control.
It has to be labeled correctly to prevent unauthorized access to control access
But to answer that question, there will be an electric disconnect close to the external meter.
And the fire company should know how to handle it? Okay.
Yeah, it's a standard fire code requirement, and, every state has their own fire codes and their own building code, and there's also a United States code, but they're all the same provisions. So they're
Okay.
very,
Okay. Does anybody else from the public have anything to say or questions? Okay. We'll close the meeting for the public.
I just have one question here. Okay, so the characterizing this system as a ground-mounted is incorrect?
yeah, it's not a ground-mounted array.
And so what's the correct?
Elevated array, I guess, what
Is
you
there-
call it.
I mean, it's officially a carport structure.
A carport, okay.
There's roof mount, ground mount, which is a traditional solar farm, or
Okay.
even some homes have ground mount. So this is a carport.
A carport, okay, because I have to prepare the resolution, so I need to have the right word for it.
Would it be
Okay.
canopy better for it than?
Canopy, solar canopy, yeah, I think in this application.
Well, ground-mounted because it's anchored to the ground. But if you see ground-mounted, they're about 6 to 8 foot high.
Yeah.
And so you know what it is needed, this certainly is that this is much higher. That's all the canopy, I think, is the biggest stuff. That's the canopy.
You weren't allowed canopies specifically like that, and you would have only been 12 feet high.
No,
Right, that's what that is.
Do you have anything else?
Yeah, that's all I have. Okay. Alrighty, this application, is seeking, preliminary and final site plan approval. And, the site plan is for putting in some additional, pavement on the existing, in the back parking lot, the installation of a solar, canopy, and then also the relocation of the trash enclosure. The application does require 6 variances, one of which, the more important variance is the variance with respect to the height of the solar canopy. And that was, the requesting 23 feet, the max is 12. They did put in their arguments with respect to that, solar is an inherently beneficial use. And then insofar as the negatives, they have argued that there is really no, given how there is really not a glare issue with respect to the with the solar, that there really are no negative impacts on the neighborhood. So that's the one I would call the most significant variance. And then there's 5 other variances that are side yard setbacks, and they, basically, the property is a combination of a lot of lots that are owned by the same owner. And so the side yards really do not have any detrimental effect on anybody because he owns the next property. Is that correct? I think that's, yes. And so, and then we have the one other, a variance, which is a variance for the front yard setback, but that's a pre-existing condition, and that is satisfied by the hardship case that the applicant's attorney has made. So with those variances, then we go back to the preliminary and the final site plan approval. It appears that, the application has met all the conditions of site plan approval. And if the board was inclined to grant this application, there are a number of conditions that we talked about this evening. One would be that any gap in the buffering in the back would be addressed along the rear property line. They would, the applicant is going to have the vehicle turning template submitted, I believe, for the board's engineer's review.
Restrict traffic from parking, getting into the area where the tables are for them.
Okay, and then we have the canopy supports. The applicant did indicate they were there was an issue with them on the northern side, they're going to shift them.
Going to shift the canopy itself.
They're shifting the canopy itself, okay. The applicant will comply with the recommendations of the fire marshal set forth in his letter, which I believe must be dated the day before, I guess, March 23rd. The applicant will submit his surveillance and security system on site to the review of the Lindenwold Police Department. The applicant has indicated they'll put a sign on the canopies for the height, so we don't have some hauler coming in and hitting it. And that they would also do all the labeling with respect to all the electrical components of the system. Let me just take a look. And let me see. And then also did testify that they're going to submit a revised plan where they're going to show where they're moving the trash enclosure to another location to comply with the concerns that the board's engineer had with its placement. So with that, those will be the conditions that I have. Jeff, do you have any that you might? Okay.
Thank you. Okay, if the board pleases, do I have a motion?
Motion.
Have a second? Okay. Roll call? No. Jermaine.
Mayor Roach?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hess?
Yes.
Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Ms. Joy Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Pasholi? Yes. Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Mr. Jermaine Jackson?
Yes.
Mr. Vandergrift?
Yes.
Thank you. Pleasure to see you all.
Congratulations.
And when else is that? A pleasure to see you all. That's how it used to be.
We've actually been in focus for a lot longer than a lot of other places.
I told him I was going to do what he asked me to do, so he was okay.
We ready for the next application? You good? Okay, application JLUB-22-3, Magworks LLC, 511 Berlin Road, Units 9 and 11, Block 92, Lots 1, 1.01, and 102, change in use, vacant units to audio-video production offices.
Hi, everyone. My name is Trevor Serene. I'm the attorney for JLUB. He did just recently buy this property. I guess he's entering into a contract for sale, close on this property. We're here today basically to get a certificate of occupancy. He's not actually submitting anything, he's not really going to change anything. Essentially, to leave the property roughly as is. The two tenants that are there now are going to remain, at least for now. He is not going to be offering any services to the public. He is a private contractor, essentially what he does. There's going to be 2 units in there that will be for his purposes, business purposes. The 2 units that are in there are for the taxes, as I mentioned. One of those rooms is going to be used as storage for his equipment that he uses essentially to rent out for the shows for various films and testify that we're interested. The other part is going to be used for his AV. He does editing, video editing, audio editing. He does some recording. He does intend to set up a little bit of a studio there that he can practice and maybe potentially down the line rent out to other people. In terms of being an audio engineer, it's actually being a live use studio and not necessarily a rental for someone to use on their own time. So it's just for his own business purposes. Again, that would be just by appointment only. So basically, we're here today that if the board feels the need or thinks that we should some sort of, I know the engineer mentioned something about the gravel parking lot that's there now. We do have enough room there to support any sort of people that are coming and going related to him, which is not going to much, not going to be employed, it's just sort of going to control our own LLC. So essentially, we're here today to fill our bases, get the occupancy.
Okay, first I want to say, kind of started off, and I didn't want to interrupt you. We do have an issue here, again, with the non-payment of taxes, right, on this one? Okay, and I do understand that you're here as a prospective purchaser. So, we will make that a condition, if the board is so inclined, make that a condition of the approval, and you're going to have to get that will motivate your landlord to pay the taxes, okay?
We're not going to make it a condition, so we have
Okay, so it's going to be taxes, sewer, and CC anyway. Okay, if the board's inclined to, if the board's inclined to hear the application subject to that condition, because he is just a prospective purchaser.
Do we know the amount?
So, for my client, we've been told that essentially it's an agreement of sale, it's been paid off, again, as soon as the transaction goes through. So,
Sure, yeah, that's fine, yeah.
we'll definitely take care of it. And, one way or the other, if we get the client.
Just going to wait for the secretary to get back, because after we make a motion,
Another couple minutes, then we go. I'm just trying to move along, I don't want to, I don't want to hold you guys.
What was your name? I didn't hear it.
It's Trevor Serene, S-E-R-I-N-E.
S-T-R...
S-E-R.
S-E-R? Okay.
Okay, Mr. Sabrina, are you going to have your applicant, your client testify? Pardon me?
We have to make a motion to...
Oh, yeah, on the taxes, yes.
Could someone on the board make a motion to hear this tonight? Application?
Hear this absent with the condition, a condition of approval will be that the owner pay the outstanding taxes and utility assessments.
Does anybody on the board would like to make a motion?
Motion.
So moved. Second.
Roll call?
Mayor Roach?
Yes.
Councilwoman Hess? Mr. Wells?
Yes.
Ms. Joy Jackson?
Yes.
Ms. Misholi? I'm sorry. Mr. Dawson?
Yes.
Mr. Jermaine Jackson? Mr. Vanderburg?
Yes. Okay, Mr. Serene, if you would like to proceed.
Yes, if you could raise your right hand, state your name, address for the record.
Jason Chuck, 419 East Ave.
Okay, could you spell your last name?
N-A-J-U-S-I-A-K.
Okay, all right. All right, do you swear? Excuse me.
Oh, yes.
Yes, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give this evening will be the whole truth?
Yes.
Okay, so, sorry, you kind of heard my spiel here already. Again, we're not really seeking to change anything on the property. What we do want to do is spruce up the front. We do the landscaping in the front of some stone, and disintegrating, going to take care of that. There's also a sign that's on the end of the property. We want to remove that. So I don't know if we need permission. We're not replacing it. We're not holding it out to the public, so there's really no need for a sign.
If you were going to rent it out, some sort of one out of the side of the sign would come with
Exactly. But in terms of just the sign itself, it doesn't reference us, and we think it's not aesthetically pleasing. We'd like to just take it all the way down. I think that's what Jay is intending to do.
Yes, and go through your letter.
I think it's the easiest way to do it. Yeah.
This is Naples LLC, 911 There's two existing vacant spaces, which are 4 units, 22 or 3 building there. Just going to use, as I said, we're members in the units over there, and then the other 2 units for the audio and video recording, activities that Joe was talking about. 2,300 fully square feet of office spaces. By ordinance, they're required to have 10 off-street parking spaces. There's certain parking areas on both the east and west side of the building. I believe the one on the east side of the building from the previous application, actually, is that owned by you or is that owned by DOT?
That is-
Determine the ownership of that?
Yeah,
It is in the DOT. I have a history, the title agent is doing a history search to see if there's any that's present. But from what I've been indicated, like, from the current owner, is that even before he was there, it was used,
Some sort of unofficial agreement.
tax and depot, and then he's been using it since he's been the tax people have been using it. So it's, I just included it as part of kind of what,
there also is an ingress on one side of it, on the far end of it, so we assume that there is an actual easement on the deed. The other one would be that specific deed,
You guys can get us that. Is there room for 10 spaces on the other side where it's really?
Yeah.
Can you sketch on that plan? It's a condition of approval, it doesn't have to be, right? Can you just sketch out the 10 spaces?
So we probably did that, and we brought it with us here today. I'm happy to submit one around with the copies.
I'm copies for everybody that want to pass it on.
That's the third time.
Yeah, okay.
That's where it just shows street parking on the front, there's a lot on either side. Should accommodate for all purposes.
And that wasn't part of the original application, right? So that's going to be an extra exhibit?
So one part of the, yes and no, that was the original, image that was included, plan that we had, again, pursuant to the engineer. But then one does actually space it out, we just took it over.
Doesn't show the parking on the street, which technically doesn't qualify for off-street parking. And it does look like there's, and if we even with this regard, we still got 10 spaces on the gravel lot on the west side of the property, so it looks like we can probably get the parking requirements as far as the number of spaces off-street.
We're going to mark this A1, okay? This is going to be marked A1.
Oh, exactly.
So my personal van and vehicle stays.
You have sufficient space to park everybody off street where you're not relying on people parking on the street. Anytime I drove by a lot, especially when you have the sewer pump stations out there on the road, and I never saw anybody park out on the street.
And frankly, we had one full event.
There's a bike path there. There's a bike path there, so you can't park there.
Okay. I just wanted to raise something park out there.
But as you can see, there's ample room to put any kind of car. Again, we're not out to the public, so it's not that people are going to be there regularly. It will be by appointment. It will be generally a couple cars, Joe's car. He does have a cargo van that probably can park in the back and not going to be able to see it driving by. Yeah, so the NJ dot has cars there anyway, so when you do it, public.
Well, that's sort of the things that we've got on off-street parking this time. You buy something on the deed, which is access roads to other lots.
I'd love to have that,
That's fine, it's NJDOT, isn't it?
It says it's a NJDOT lot, I don't know who actually owns the road, but it's not part of the lot.
It's not part, okay, but there's a history of using it.
There could be a cross-access.
Yeah.
And it's been certainly permissive use for a number of years,
So, you're having a title report done for your purchase, right? So do you have that yet?
Well, this, I guess because it's in your part of transit lot, it wasn't.
It didn't come up in your
So
report?
they're doing a
Okay.
more extensive history search, which I initiated Monday, and just haven't heard back yet from the county, but I'm hoping for the best.
Whatever you can get, you have somebody comes, not that they're not going to go and ask them about it, or more or less part of it, page 4, it talks about section 365-942, which requires that all parking areas separated for several point hours have to be closed basically, not just the
I know it's been pretty much the use and the condition of the property, I think, since, we've been aware of it for a number of years.
I might, we did an application on this once before, where we requested that it's going to be paved and handicapped. And if you don't do that now, can they come back and go after us? But my question is matter. She said that he may possibly be coming down the road, having people come in to do, music and stuff like that, or whatever the case may be, and that's going to be cars parked there. You don't want to get burned twice.
That's correct.
Okay, so
That's correct for the ADA requirement.
Yes, come back for a change. If you come back, it's going to be a change of use.
That would be fine, as long as we have that in condition that if he does decide to have people come there, any reason whatsoever.
It is a ground level lot, I'm sure you guys are familiar with it, so just, grant would accommodate that.
Parking space, sidewalk there, you're not going to touch the sidewalk.
And ultimately, what we do, again, down the line, what we'd like to do is revitalize that area a little bit. I mean, since when we do come back to apply for construction permit and kind of improvements, that certainly would be taking a lot. Obviously, adds to the professional quality of the business. If you are going to do that, there's a lot of things, a lot of reasons to do that, particularly for unloading and loading, which is not happening now. But so that's certainly, not off the table even if today. If we can come back forward, any kind of further improvement. Happy to.
I'm just concerned that
absolutely, I understand.
Going down the road, that he's going to have a band in there, and then he's going to have people parking to come there in the evening. We've seen this happen before. I don't want to get burned twice. So that's my concern. If you're doing a recording studio and it's just you and you're going to engineer it possibly or whatever the case would be, I've got no problem with that. And I don't think the board would have a problem with that.
I would agree with something or the other problems when you're having more cars coming in, I think it should be big, at this point.
Well, let me ask you this. If you go to business and you operate by appointments only, is that how you do that?
Yeah.
Is that open to the public?
It's not defined as the public.
Most of the work I do is off-site. I have equipment in my warehouse. I currently operate a Collinswood. I've been there for like 10 years. And most of the equipment's in there and I put it off-site. I go to different venues. And once in a while I need to like follow up on something. And maybe record it off-site and kind of even add a little soundtrack to it. It's more of a video production studio. I'm not trying to really, I've had the time to develop my business, so I don't have to just kind of deal with a little bit here, a little bit there. I have serious clients that do serious projects where we do pretty well, formulated so that it's not just a chaotic, fairly in regards as is.
I think we've come to down the road is we've learned a little bit that we'll put in stipulations that are on this amendment or the resolution to.
Okay, let me ask you this. What would be the maximum number of people you would have in your studio at any point in time?
I mean,
including yourself, 4 other people, 5 total?
5 including myself.
This is not a common occurrence. I mean, this isn't a thing that he's doing every day or anything like that. In fact, most of Jay's job is he goes out to the spaces he works with. So every weekend he's setting up for local festivals. He runs a lot of the local.
So most of your work is done off-site?
Yeah, actually, I work at the Scottish Rite, so I use that room to do video work for local bands and corporate clients and stuff like that. I do events in the Eagles, like the Financial Fields, and I also work at the National Museum of American Jewish History. They're three of my main venue clients that I work with. And lately I've been getting more into the video streaming and the video content, which is much less intensive than even just 4 people playing.
So, to accommodate the people, the maximum number of people that you could have here, there's on-street parking. That would accommodate them? Because there's what, 5? Off-street. Oh, there's a bike path.
And just to reassure the board, it's not like, it's very difficult for any kind of professional recording studio to just set up in a building and roll with it. You're not going to attract any clientele. It's not how it really works. I mean, particularly with there are some really professional, high-quality studios all around the area. And, you know, they spend a lot of time, a lot of money building buildings.
This is more like private film.
So this is the same with now, again, if you come sort of the room, maybe doing films and things like that, that's, you know, essentially just him. But if you have people in there to do a couple of recordings, then it might be once a month, it might be once every couple of weeks, something like that. And it's certainly not a consistent, you know, regular thing. Again, he works out most of the time, he's shipping. So, but he's really looking at, he sells his building, he thought it was a good use, and then maybe we could expand there in the future. And again, that's why we're talking about maybe building it out. But in terms of just the purchase price and things like that, there's not the money to go into what would be an open to the public studio is an exorbitant amount. And I know that from personal experience as representing numerous recording studios. So, you know, they spend a lot of money, and if you want good sound, you have to pay for it to take it. So, you know, if you come in here, potentially you can use it for his personal business, living it out. But again, there may or may not be 5 points. Now it's going to be very clear about that. Absolutely not. We're not going to have a sign, so, you know.
No sign, because it's a lot of pretty, you know, collected, sought out, very specific pieces of equipment, cameras and stuff, so I'd rather that stuff be safe than I have a place that I can really focus on that.
And that comes to one of the other points you made, which is, I don't know if this is been up to date on site. But certainly we would like to have an alarm system in because there are some, you know, fairly valuable cameras. You know, I can't speak to what's on there right now, but I know that at minimum there needs to be an alarm system that's
whatever you're going to put as far as security, just ask about the business.
That makes sense. And again, we're just trying to protect our own property as well.
What kind of hours and days are we going to be
Yeah, most weekends I'm out doing stuff. Maybe 1 or 2, usually Tuesdays, Wednesdays, you know, right now, maybe I'd be there packing equipment room. A lot of people after they've done work, maybe 6 to 9, 6 to 10 is the latest people kind of go at my current place.
I mean, that's some of the work hours. They're sort of variable. It depends on, you know, when the show is being set up. And a lot of times some of these shows are at night, so he's just getting there, loading up at 4:30, 6:30, hauling out there, and then, you know, he has the opportunity to bring it back. Great, if not, you know, we'll do tomorrow. It's not going to work.
Is the, you know, the New Jersey DOT lot, is that paved, or is that just a stone also?
You guys are going to freshen up the riverstone and the cameras and the riverstone and all that.
If you want to look nice, you know.
That was that was learning and because these vehicles and stuff, and then what
I mean, we're requesting, you know, again, I don't think it's actually required under, essentially, because we're not holding it out, but if it is, you know, we understand, but we're just trying to say that this is essentially, we're not really a public business in the sense of what the ordinance is really focusing on, you know, shopping malls, et cetera. Dollar General, things like that, people are coming and going.
I don't agree with that, but if it wasn't.
I don't know,
I think it's not.
I'm not sure, I'm just
not simple.
Just
Jeff, what was that, what condition, what point are you on right now? The second one. It's still there, okay.
Yeah, it's not, it shouldn't have any, fact it's not used.
It'd be nice to see where solar technology's going to do it right, you know, that was a cool idea, that's right, it's, you know, so.
Yeah, move into the neighborhood, you'll be going in a quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's really good.
So anything besides that, if you guys pose in, besides the landscaping, that kind of thing?
No, again, just sprucing up, revitalizing, it's not like we're essentially changing much at all, really, we just want to get in there, use some of the storage, use some of the infrastructure, equipment, for example, and disaster, for the status quo.
So the church is covering the barn, and do some of the sidewalk, or some of the slopes, and the accessible, and usually do the ADA aspects of site improvements, but they don't have the ADA requirement.
Because it's not open public.
It's on that, so it can be used or do something like that, we find that something like
Certainly if they're unstable, football, and that could problem for our liability insurance, so we'll have to take care of that anyway, you know what I mean? If the city and township would certainly give the permission to do it, I don't know how, who owns that,
Number 5 and number 6, I think, really kind of that, this is a large issue of the age and the car industry, medical drive a fire marshal regarding accessibility to the emergency services and to which is pretty accessible. Just a small area, not trying to travel it to access. What kind of waste do you can generate enough waste for this?
No,
Have you had a little hour back if there was, you know, maybe recycling trash out back there?
on the news outside, you can see that.
Right, I see that.
But that's where they're being stored now.
generating very little waste, it's not like we're there, you know, throwing out.
Taxes, it's got to be paid.
Yeah, whatever they, and again, they've been there, and they've been generating that, so all of the room thing, I'm sure haven't been an issue, that's probably what we're about.
We talked about, you know, the things of sign, and we're all going to talk about security. I think that's all I have on the water, and that's going to be a question for,
I think it's just,
So you were not creating any videos there, filming them, making videos, like, you're not going to have people in and doing any kind of performance or anything like that?
No.
And what's the latest you're going to be there?
Like 10.
yeah, it's certainly not an all-night kind of thing where he's throwing parties and raging, this is, you know.
I looked for like a town ordinance that mentioned that like business operate, like the colonies at certain times that operate, and so like it's 11 o'clock between hours, so they actually say, okay, you have to do business. But
Because
again,
there's residents right across the street, so, I mean, we don't need you at 2 o'clock in the morning playing drums.
Sure, no. I mean, I think, you know, 10 o'clock is usually what we go now, so, you know, I was just wondering if there was an actual time when you guys.
I think if you were going there to drop off equipment and put it back into storage, you're not going to be making any kind of real loud noises or anything else like that. And it would probably only be for about an hour or so, if that.
Isn't that, yeah.
I would assume. I don't know.
If it's just unloading a van, it's pretty tight now.
You worry about loud music.
There's doors in the back.
Or dances.
Yeah.
Was there an ordinance for noise? I thought it followed the state regulations. Yeah. Noise ordinance.
Yeah.
After 10 o'clock.
Yeah, right next to the track. Yeah, 37 seconds.
It's a very similar atmosphere to what I'm at. I'm right up against the Patco. We have never had a noise complaint. and I've been there 10 years, so, I'm a sound engineer by trade, so I know how to deal with acoustics. If that ever does become an issue, because I know what you need to do to accomplish that. And this property is actually great, because there's only 2 properties across the street, and that gives me a much easier time to address those things. You don't have to really worry about behind, because it's all blocked. There's no windows in the side of the building. It's all blocked building. There's a train. There's actually a shed behind the room that I have, then the train. So the sound is going to have a very hard time getting anywhere except for 2 houses. So I can make sure that they don't do anything.
Look at me drive the taxi flat out there.
This is my area.
Does anybody from the, do you have anything more?
No, I mean, we're happy to answer any questions you guys have.
Does anybody from the board have any questions?
The only thing I just want to make sure is that if he does do anything other than what he's saying tonight, we go back to the paving and to the sidewalks.
So what I was thinking that we would make a condition to say that he would not be open to the public, and that the maximum number of people that he could ever have there would be 5. And if that does change...
I mean, I don't want to...
Well, here's the thing, if you don't want to, but we have to be consistent with applicants.
But if we have 6 people there, I don't even put a hard cap on a number of people there. You know what I mean? I don't even know...
Well, we have to put some parameters around it. That's the way it is, because the ordinance...
Can you give us a cap number?
You did give us a cap, you gave us 5.
Well, I think the cap would be what the fire marshal would say is appropriate to have in the room at any...
No, because you're required to pave this, okay? You are required, and you're asking for a waiver of that. And so we have to be consistent with you as we are with other people.
I understand. Okay. What I'm saying is that it wouldn't be related to the number of people, it would be related to the square footage of the building. That's my understanding of the
That's the number of parking, yeah.
But the prior is not, the prior is only limited to 10. So we're just asking the status quo be maintained.
Prior use, that's never been recorded to me.
It wasn't in the law?
It was used as an office building. And somebody came in there, somebody came in.
I understand that. So I've got to... What's the most
Once in a while,
I just don't want to... I don't need to be that. I'm just trying to say if there's a hard cap, what if we're 1 over? I don't want to be...
Well, why don't you propose to us how you can keep us happy? There is a requirement that you pave. And you're asking us to waive that. So why don't you tell us what you think you need?
myself would be the maximum, maybe some...
I just to make it nice and round up, number 10, something like that. 10.
Sometimes there's a couple extras.
No, not including the, you can't control what the tax people do, you know what I mean?
No, we're talking about the shift on your side of the building.
Yeah, we're just talking about you.
Who's coming into your building, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah, I would say 10 would be reasonable. It's not like we're out again with right from the middle. And if any of this does change, obviously we're subject to the same as everybody else, and then we come back to you guys to approve a new plan. We'll obviously be paid at that time because people will be subject to the ADA and all other regulations. We're not trying to get around anything. We're just trying to get a property, get them in, get them making money so that eventually down the line that we can improve the property and hopefully have a long time.
And we'd love to see that. We're not trying to hurt anybody.
No, I just want to be very
hurt before, so.
I understand.
See why 10.
I've been renting for many years, with the pandemic. It'd be great to just get in, and then there's a whole extra lot. I'm working hard. It'd be great to put something that you guys would thrilled to have. It'd be great to time. Right down, within walking distance of the tap. It'd be great to be there.
All in favor of new businesses and increasing some revenue in there?
Happy to do so.
Does anybody else from the board have any questions? Should we open it up to the public? Anybody from the public have any questions? No one from the public? We're going to review.
Okay, so we had an application for a change of use and a waiver of the site plan requirement. So the change of use, this is a 4-unit building. The applicant is going to be utilizing 2 of the vacant units, and that is going to be for a an office where he will conduct his videography business. So we have some conditions on this approval, which would be that, one, he would submit his use to the fire marshal for the comments, that he would, secondly, do the, any surveillance or security measures that he installs, that he will, have them reviewed by the, Lindenwold Police Department. And then we have to stipulate that this, your use is, as you've represented tonight, will not be open to the public, and that you will not have more than, 10 occupants, in the building at any one time. If you do exceed that, you have to come back to the board with respect to, we will deem that to be a change of use, and we'll have to come back and do that. And then the last condition, which really does not apply to you, but, it will be that the owner of the property does have to, take care of his outstanding taxes and assessments, which he will do anyway. If you buy it, he's going to have to do that at closing, so.
Okay, anybody on the board would like to make a motion?
Motion.
Have a second?
Second.
Roll call?
Mayor Roach.
Yes.
Councilwoman Hess.
Yes.
Mr. Wells.
Yes.
Ms. Joy Jackson.
Yes.
Ms. Masholi.
Yes.
Mr. Dawson.
Yes.
Mr. Jermaine Jackson.
Yes.
And Mr. Vandergrift.
Yes. Thank you. Welcome.
I'm very impressed with your microphone skills there, too. Something I didn't notice that. I will change that or...
I learned it all from Mike, public works